Chapter 9: The Global Exploitation, Vietnam, and the Opium Funnel. The period following the assassination of President Kennedy forced the iron grip into a critical strategic pivot, with Lucky Luciano's death in 1962 creating a power vacuum, and the massive New York heroin bust in the same year exposing the French Connection's vulnerability. The network's lucrative East Coast supply line was fundamentally threatened. The crisis demanded a bold, new source of supply and the absolute certainty that federal pressure would cease. The successful political compromise in Dallas delivered the second part. The escalation of the Vietnam War provided the first. This move into Southeast Asia marked the full realization of the Iron Grip's global exploitation phase, where geopolitical conflict was weaponized to secure massive, untouchable criminal capital. The new pipeline, state compromise in the Golden Triangle. The mob's traditional heroin supply route, the French Connection, Turkey to Marseille to New York, was now deemed hot. The network swiftly shifted its focus to the Golden Triangle, the remote, lawless region encompassing parts of Myanmar, Laos, and Thailand. This area, crucial to the U.S. Cold War agenda, became the ideal new headquarters for narcotics production. The framework for this new pipeline was built on direct state criminal fusion, opium explosion under state protection. Opium production exploded in the Golden Triangle. The U.S. government, prioritizing the fight against communism, actively supported local paramilitary forces such as the Hmong in Laos, many of whom controlled and profited directly from the narcotics trade. The American intelligence community, inheriting the same template of compromise used during Operation Underworld, tacitly allowed or deliberately overlooked the drug running. Air America was a company owned by the CIA and used to transport heroin during the war. The mob's network thus acquired a new, politically essential immunity shield. Military logistics as a smuggling route. The massive U.S. military logistics apparatus, the constant flow of cargo, air transport, and military personnel movement became the perfect, high-volume delivery system. Heroin, now refined closer to the source, was smuggled back through the theater of operations, often for use by American GIs, before being shipped back to the U.S. mainland. This allowed the Iron Grip to utilize U.S. government-controlled air and sea lanes to deliver its product home, completing the exploit and profit cycle on a global scale. The three-stage blueprint of domestic collapse. The flood of cheap, high-purity heroin returning from Vietnam, often carried by disillusioned soldiers, was aimed directly at the most vulnerable populations in the United States. This application of the drug trade to domestic populations perfected the network's blueprint for destabilization, a model of social control that was every bit as devastating as war. Stage 1: Dismantle, political decapitation. The groundwork was already prepared through the assassinations of high-profile leaders like Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., creating a crucial political vacuum. These acts of dismantle ensured that the community lacked the unified, credible political leadership necessary to resist the economic and social onslaught to come. By using the lone gunman narrative, the obfuscate and obstruct mandate in each case, the network ensured that the powerful voice of dissent was silenced, while the true source of opposition, the Iron Grip, remained hidden. Stage 2: Fracture, infrastructure as warfare. The The network utilized the U.S. government's own spending to execute the fracture stage. Federally funded interstate highway systems were strategically routed directly through prosperous, self-contained African American neighborhoods, often known as Black Wall Streets or Freedmen's Towns. These projects constituted a form of infrastructure warfare, deliberately shattering property values and local economies, breaking up dense networks of community-owned businesses, severing the social cohesion that stored wealth and political power. This engineered devastation created a vast, unprotected vacuum of commerce and continuity, a landscape perfectly primed for criminal exploitation. Stage 3. Exploit. Flooding the vacuum. With the political and physical infrastructure fractured, the network proceeded to the exploit stage. The systematic flooding of narcotics into these new, vulnerable residential pockets was a deliberate act of economic and social warfare. The inversion of focus. While the massive profits flowed upwards to the mob's high-level beneficiaries, the lucky enclaves, law enforcement's focus remained overwhelmingly on the most marginalized. The law enforcement agencies, still driven by the ideological blinders of Hoover's segregated FBI, focused strictly on the street dealer and the impoverished user. The ultimate social control. This inversion ensured that the victims of the destabilization, the African American community, became the focus of the punitive war on drugs, leading to mass incarceration. The criminal enterprise generated billions in clean, untaxed capital, while the state bore the cost of enforcing the subsequent social collapse, thereby securing the iron grip's liquidity and guaranteeing its survival at the apex of American power.